The Bored Ape Yacht Club is one of the most successful NFT collections we have ever seen. It launched back in April of 2021 and includes 10,000 algorithmically generated NFTs. The Bored Ape Yacht Club has been so successful that the most expensive NFTs in the collection now sell for millions of dollars. This success eventually led Yuga Labs, who is the creator of Bored Ape Yacht Club, to expand their brand by creating a metaverse known as the Otherside. But before we dive into the Otherside, we should first look at exactly how they grew their brand to a point where they could even take on a project of that scale. The first step after the initial success was to create additional NFT projects. The projects they created were Mutant Ape Yacht Club and Bored Ape Kennel Club. They also decided to purchase existing brands like CryptoPunks and Meebits. In 2022, they began turning things up a notch by releasing their own cryptocurrency, ApeCoin, which is built on top of the Ethereum blockchain. This coin was officially released in March and was airdropped to current holders of Bored Apes, Mutant Apes, and Kennel Club NFTs. It is also available to buy on many major crypto exchanges. ApeCoin has been very successful, already becoming one of the largest cryptocurrencies around. The interesting thing about ApeCoin is that it isn't directly controlled by Yuga Labs. Instead, the ApeCoin community governs itself through a DAO, or Decentralized Autonomous Organization. Having a DAO allows ApeCoin holders to participate in the growth of ApeCoin through commentary, submitting proposals, and voting. The size of your vote is based on how many ApeCoins you hold. On top of that, the ApeCoin Foundation was created to help guide the ApeCoin community. This foundation includes some pretty high-profile people, including Alexis Ohanian, which is one of the co-founders of Reddit, and Amy Wu, who is head of ventures and gaming at the crypto exchange FTX. While it's great that they created ApeCoin to be a completely separate entity, Yuga Labs still does have many connections to it. With the creation of ApeCoin, Yuga Labs was given a large portion of the total supply. Because of this, they have a lot of voting power within the ApeCoin DAO. They have also made it clear that their upcoming Metaverse project would use ApeCoin as its main currency. This leads us to Yuga Labs' most ambitious project ever, the Otherside Metaverse. This Metaverse is meant to be the virtual place to go. It really feels like they are attempting to make a very dynamic, Ready Player One type of environment. Unlike many of the other metaverses in this space, which haven't really gotten to that next level yet. Clearly, a lot of investors have seen some potential in this project as well. When raising money to create this metaverse, Yuga Labs was extremely successful. They were able to raise $450 million to build out their metaverse, meaning investors valued Yuga Labs as a $4 billion company. That's huge. The Otherside is also being created in partnership with Animoca Brands. This is interesting because they create one of the other largest metaverses out there right now, the Sandbox. So this has many believing that there will be integration between the two metaverses in the future. The co-founder and chairman of Animoca Brands, Yat Su, is even on the board of ApeCoin, showing us just how connected these projects really are. So what exactly is the Otherside Metaverse going to entail? Their website explains it best. We set out to build the Otherside with one thing in mind. The metaverse should be anything but boring. The world should be dynamic, steeped in narrative, and your actions should hold consequences. Step into the Otherside where the normal rules do not apply. Where you end up is up to chance, where you go is up to you. It sounds like storytelling is going to be a very important aspect of the Otherside. What's also interesting is that it sounds like you may randomly spawn into the metaverse when you first start playing, instead of having a set starting area for everyone. Yuga Labs also mentioned that this metaverse is going to have similarities to MMORPGs and Dungeons & Dragons. So that brings games to mind like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV. Since we haven't seen any gameplay yet, exactly what they mean by this is up to anyone's guess. They're probably referencing the progression systems in these games, where you travel around looking for items, abilities, and who knows what else to make your character cooler and stronger. That is all speculation though. We will have to wait until we see some real gameplay before we know for sure. The Otherside will also provide more functionality for many of their already existing NFTs. Any owners of Bored Ape, Mutant Ape, Kennel Club, and CryptoPunk NFTs will be able to use their NFT as a playable character in-game at launch. Meebits will also be coming in the future, but it seems that they won't be available immediately at launch. We can also assume that many of the other NFT collections featured in the trailer will offer the same functionality. These NFT collections include World of Women, Nouns, Cool Cats, and Crypto Toads. These collections are a more interesting case because they aren't directly owned by Yuga Labs. This means that Yuga Labs has partnered with these collections to help expand the Otherside Metaverse, which could potentially open the door for many more partnerships in the future. Yuga Labs has also mentioned that everyone else will be able to import their own characters into the metaverse. There will also be additional options for creators to create outfits, tools, structures, and even games to use or sell within the Otherside. The Otherside also boasts that it will be more technologically advanced than any other online, massively multiplayer game. They claim a whopping 10,000 players will be able to interact simultaneously in a single space. They also mention that you'll be able to talk and connect with those around you, even in these massive crowds. This seems similar to being at a packed out sports stadium and still being able to talk to the person right next to you. To make all of this possible, Yuga Labs says that they will be able to process 500 million operations a second. Compare that to the typical 10,000 operations a second of other online game worlds. All of these claims are very bold, so it will be interesting to see how well they can actually pull all of this off. Another very important aspect of the Otherside is the plots of land that are for sale. Selling virtual land is a staple among Metaverse games, and the Otherside has been no different. Though there is a lot more complexity with the plots of land in the Otherside. Their website states, "The Otherside is part galaxy and part archipelago, with islands extending from the biogenic swamp at the center and rolling outwards to the infinite expanse. There are 5 sediments that lands are built upon: biogenic swamp, chemical goo, rainbow atmos, cosmic dream, and infinite expanse. Your other deed is the key to a unique blend of environment, sediment, and treasures, some with resources, some home to powerful artifacts, and on a very few, a coda roams." There's a lot to unpack here. The biggest thing to note is that these are not just blank pieces of land. They all have unique aspects to them, including special items, resources, and little aliens called codas. While exactly what these codas will do is not extremely well known, we do know that they will play an extremely important role in the Otherside. They are very rare and are only found on some pieces of land. Also, each coda has unique traits that make them stand out from one another. All of these features, including the codas, make each piece of land extremely unique. While 2 people could have the same biome, they may not have the same resources, artifact, or coda. This is really cool because now each piece of land is going to offer its own advantages and disadvantages, rather than just being the same thing over and over again like a lot of metaverses seem to do. Also, the tier of land seems to be very important. These tiers are called sediments. Lower sediment tiers of the same biome have smaller structures than the higher tiers. The actual NFT you receive with your plot of land is dynamic. This means that as your plot of land changes and evolves in-game, so will the NFT that represents it. That means in the future, all of these NFTs could look extremely different depending on what users decide to do with their land in the Otherside. So what is the importance of the resources and artifacts found on these plots of land? The resources found in each biome will be used to craft certain items. The exact purposes or uses of these items is unknown, but it can be easily assumed that rare resources will be needed to craft some pretty important items. The artifacts found on certain plots of land are rare and sometimes uncraftable items. This means many of them can only be obtained by finding them on a plot of land. The website also mentions, if you find an artifact, know that it may hold secrets to this world as it expands. So artifacts could become extremely valuable and useful depending on what they do and how rare they are. Another important factor to look at is where your piece of land is located. There are 200,000 plots of land in this metaverse, each with its own unique place on the map. The map that these pieces of land encompass looks to be massive. On the Otherside website, you can actually go and interact with it. In the very center of the map is the Bored Ape Yacht Club. This is where they showed the Bored Ape in the original trailer. Then as you move out, there are more and more plots of land. Each dot on the map is its own distinct area. The inner area is more dense, while the outer areas have very few plots of land in comparison. While it's hard to know exactly how much location will matter at the moment, it seems reasonable to believe that plots closest to the Bored Ape Yacht Club in the center would probably tend to have more value than those farther away. Obviously, resources, sediments, and all those other things will still be very important in valuing land, but location is another thing to consider. On April 30th, they actually sold the first other deeds for the Otherside. These other deeds are just the name given to the NFTs that represent plots of land in the Otherside. This launch included 55,000 other deeds that would be minted, which is a fairly large chunk of all the land that exists in the Otherside. The additional other deeds will be given to current Bored Ape and Mutant Ape holders along with developers. This specific mint, however, was open to anyone. The only catch was that you had to purchase the other deed in ApeCoin. Every single other deed was hidden as to not reveal any aspects of the actual plot of land. Because of this, every other deed costs exactly 305 ApeCoin to mint. But because ApeCoin runs on the Ethereum blockchain, users would need some Ethereum to pay for gas fees when minting the other deed. This ended up causing a lot of problems. As people flocked to try to mint another deed, the Ethereum network got clogged up. Gas fees are supposed to be a fairly reasonable amount and are typically used to gain priority on the Ethereum blockchain. With such a congested network, Ethereum gas fees began to rise to ridiculous amounts. They rose so high that many users were paying more in gas fees than they were actually paying for the other deed itself. Some users even paid significantly more than that. The worst part is that this affected everyone trying to use the Ethereum blockchain around that time, not just those minting other deeds. There are also many users who attempted to mint an other deed but the transaction failed. This caused them to lose thousands of dollars in gas fees without even receiving another deed NFT. Thankfully, Yuga Labs stated that they would refund users who lost money, but it's still unfortunate that this happened at all. Over $120 million was paid in gas fees during the mint. That's a lot of money that could have went to Yuga Labs or stayed in the pockets of those who were minting the NFTs. This whole ordeal has caused Yuga Labs to issue a statement on Twitter about the whole situation. We're sorry for turning off the lights on Ethereum for a while. It seems abundantly clear that ApeCoin will need to migrate to its own chain in order to properly scale. We'd like to encourage the DAO to start thinking in this direction. This situation has caused them to want to move the recently launched ApeCoin to its own blockchain instead of using Ethereum's. This would still require approval from the DAO since Yuga Labs doesn't have direct control over ApeCoin. However, they still do have a lot of voting power and influence, so whatever they advocate for is likely to pass. Despite all of these hiccups, this mint was still overall a massive success. This was the largest NFT mint in history, raising nearly $320 million and successfully selling 55,000 other deeds. The Otherside has a ton of potential, but we'll just have to wait and see if it really follows through with the many promises it's currently making. One of the biggest things is that it needs to be fun. Other Metaverse experiences, while interesting, never seem to be extremely fun or meaningful. If this game is fun to play for those who don't even like NFTs, then it will undoubtedly succeed. Yuga Labs is doing a lot right with this project. They are partnering with people who know what they are doing and can help guide the Otherside in the right direction. They are also successfully gaining a lot of hype for the project, especially with their impressive trailer for it that even haters are enjoying. Hopefully as time goes on, the Otherside will continue to look more and more promising. All we can do for now is keep a close eye on the project and watch as it develops.